Okay, hello everybody. I'm Dan. Today is Friday, May the 22nd, 2020. It's about 5:25 p.m. It's 90 degrees Fahrenheit with a heat index of 99 and the humidity is 58% here in East Texas. It's hot, I'm sweating, I'm wearing my Ultra Breeze bee suit and I'm still sweating. Sometimes I like to call it my Ultra No Breeze, but that's not true. My apiary is blocked off from the wind a little bit, so it isn't hitting me. But I do feel it when I walk out here. I could actually be standing out here in a t-shirt and a veil and still be soaking wet. So I really need to get one of those electronic thermometers to see what it actually is out here in the country. The humidity's got to be higher than 58%. But whatchamacallit, today I'm going to introduce a queen to one of my splits I did a few days ago. Now, I split a double deep hive. I went ahead and got 2 nukes out of it, and I moved the queen with one of the splits, okay? Whenever you split, you're simulating a swarm. The queen leaves with the swarm, okay? Now, the other nuke, I need to introduce a queen to, okay? Now, last year, I got my Cordovan Italian queens from C.F. Conan and Son out of California. I was very happy with them, okay? This year, I got them out of California also, but from Pendle Apiaries. And they're supposed to be hygienic. They actually test to see how hygienic they really are, and they do the CO2 testing with them. And whatchamacallit. So this nuke here, I'm going to introduce that queen. Let me flip this around. All right, now here are some of my other splits I did. All right, now these were strong splits, 4 or 5 frames of brood. I'll probably add a box to that one in the center, that yellow one, before I leave. Yeah. And then that one on the far right, that's the other nuke I had. That's the nuke with the C.F. Conan Cordovan Italian Queen in it. And if you're wondering what that little piece of holly is, that's actually used to reorient any foragers that may have moved with the nuke. It usually works, not all the time, but the key is to having the leaves close, all right, to where it obstructs their leaving. That way it forces them to reorient. Okay, now I've done the same here. Okay, and then here's another split from a C.F. Conan hive. But I'm going to go ahead and come around here. We're going to work on this right here. Let's see here. Yeah, y'all should be able to see just fine. Now, I made these nukes, and I've got between some of the holes in the entrances are 5/8 inches, and some are 3/4 inches. All right, but I've moved these hives into the shade. And on the bottom board, which is attached, I have a hole. It's a 4-inch in diameter hole with window screen. Okay, now the reason I use window screen is because small hive beetles can go through number 8 hardware cloth, and that's what most screen bottom boards are made out of. Okay, now I was told recently that the bees will propolize the window screen by a very reliable source. I really don't know, so this is going to be an experiment for me. I imagine they'll propolize what they don't want of it. That would be my guess, but we'll see. Now here's an empty hive here. There's just my inner cover. Just something simple. Whenever I made the edges, with the edges here to where they'll stay on. It gets so hot and humid here, the wood swells and constricts, and they just got too tight. So I said, the heck with that. They'll propolize this down anyway. Let me show you this. Okay, here's my hole, if y'all can see that. All right, I got a screw sticking out of that one. This was one of my prototypes, but it'll still work. Okay, let me see if y'all can see that. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so I'm going to put this one back, and we'll look at this other one here. Now, I made a video earlier, but it was so darn hot, my phone cut off of the introducing a queen to the other hive, so I'm having to do this now. Now, I'm going to go ahead and smoke these girls. There's that little hole under there. All right, that should go up there. I don't like to smoke my bees too much. Okay. Oh, yeah. Let's see if y'all can see that. Okay, good. Now, I put beetle blasters in all of my hives, okay? They work. Okay, this right here, this is one of those banked Pendle apiary queens I had. And they've been banked for a couple of weeks. I've just been splitting slowly. She's marked. She's a Cordovan Italian. This year's color is blue. Now this is a California cage, okay? It's smaller than the regular cages you would get if you only ordered 1 or 2 queens. All right, the other cages have attendants in them. These don't. And if you look at my last video, you'll see how they came. The attendants are on the outside inside a box. Okay, here's the candy cork there, and they'll eat that out. It's different. It's not actually a cork, I mean a candy plug. Okay, now we're gonna lay this girl up here and see what they do. All right, I don't need that anymore. Now, it's going on 48 hours from when I did that split, okay? Now, the queen mandibular pheromone is the pheromone that the queen excretes from her mandibular gland around her jaw. And that's how the queen identifies herself and with the hive, if I'm saying that correctly. Anyway, all the nurse bees that tend to her, they get queen mandibular pheromone from her, and they spread it throughout the hive. Okay, and the foragers get some of it, and when they leave, in order for them to come back, they have to have the same scent from that queen, from that pheromone. If they don't have it, they're not allowed entry. Okay, and the guard bees check them, so it's kind of like a passport. All right, now, from what I understand, it usually takes 8 to 24 hours for that pheromone to dissipate. So if you're doing splits, you know, that tells you something. Okay, I went ahead and waited 2 days, 48 hours just in case. And because I haven't looked up any of the research on that. But let's look at these right here. All right, now I'm going to let them release her. I'm not going to do a direct release. Now I'm going to, oh, I almost smashed one. I'm just hitting a piece of wire there. All right, I'm just moving my hand on there, and they're just brushing off easily. All right, you see that? Okay, so that's good. Nobody's sticking their abdomen out. Let me get these bees off my fingers. Nobody's sticking out their abdomens. All right, they're not being aggressive. I probably could direct release her on a frame of brood, but I'm not going to. There's no rush. They'll release her in a day or 2. Okay, now I'm going to set that right there out of the way. Now, while I'm thinking about it, whenever I do a split, all right, move this smoker. I don't know if that smoke's in your way. All right, do y'all see the size of my pollen patty up here? That's probably a little bit bigger than I normally would use for a nuke. All right, and the reason I use a small size like that is because the small hive beetles will overwhelm that pollen patty and lay eggs in there, which will hatch into larvae. And they could slime this hive. But if there are enough bees to cover this patty, The small hive beetles won't be able to do that. Let me move these girls over. Oh, almost smashed one there. I'm actually going to get rid of some of this pollen patty. Now when I do a split, I give them a pollen patty to make sure they have everything they need, because usually with the split, if you don't put that little piece of that little tiny branch in front to make the foragers reorient, they're going to go back to the original hive. All right, now, and then you're just left with nurse bees. And it's going to be a while before the nurse bees start foraging. So even though I have some honey in here, and honey, nectar, and some pollen, I don't want them to stress or run out, so I give them a pollen patty. It has everything they need, okay, for the short term. All right, now, pollen patties are sticky. All right, once you put them on, you got the stuff all over your gloves. A wet rag, you just wipe your gloves with that, and it comes off very easily. It's a beekeeper tip there. So you don't have to rub it all over your suit, your hands all over your suit. All right, now let's see where we're going to put this girl. I really want to put her in the middle. So I'm going to move this over. Okay. Oops, sorry ladies, I smashed somebody in the queen cage. I'm just going to set this here. All right, now, all right, good. That's what I wanted. Now this is something new that I've started doing. All right, I got this idea from, I guess it's the bee man at Faith Apiaries. He's a Canadian beekeeper. And this is just Right Sail Foundation from Man Lake. And I just cut it in half on my table saw. Okay, now what he uses it for, he puts, y'all seen that green drone comb, right? The plastic frames for drones that the queen will lay drones, the Varroa mites will go in there and they'll lay eggs, and then you pull the frame out and you stick it in the freezer, and it kills all the drones and the mites and the eggs. All right, since the mites prefer drones. But I've seen in my opinion, it really doesn't matter. The mites will get on whatever. But so they freeze it, then they put the frame back in the hive. The bees clean out all the dead pupa and mites, and they start over. Well, what he did was you'll have worker brood here, and then they'll draw out this comb here, and usually it'll probably be drone comb if they don't have another place to draw out drone comb. And then he'll just cut it out and cull them like that. Me, I don't care. I don't do that, okay? I treat with oxalic acid vaporization in the fall, okay, or late summer. So that works well for me. And it's, the least stressful on the bees. And it's organic. Anyway, I think I can say that. But he'll actually put a nail in here to hold it in place. I don't. I just put it where I want it, and the bees will propolize it. Now, Now, another thing, with using these will help me with the sag I get in the heat. That's why I want to do it. And I like using foundationless, but with the heat here in East Texas, it gets so darn hot. The frames, the wax stretches and buckles at the bottom from the weight of the honey and the heat. Okay, now, Now you may say, well, heck, I don't want to wait. They're going to keep building drones there. And it's like, no. Once they have a batch of drones, they come back and fill it in with honey. So it'll be filled in with honey, so you don't have to worry about that. Now this is what I'm going to do here. I don't know if y'all can still see. Okay. All right, these girls like this queen. Okay, this hive is absolutely queenless. Now what I'm going to do, candy plugs right here. All right. And it's so much nicer in the shade. We'll see how these ladies do with hive beetles, small hive beetles. I may have to put them in the sun, but this is an experiment. All right. They are on her. And look, I'm moving my hand. I can brush them away easily, okay? So they're pretty much accepting her. Now, I'm going to push this all the way up into the edge there. Let's see if you can see what I've done here. All right, the candy plug's right there. It's exposed. Now, a lot of times when you do splits, I did it twice this season. You've got a double or triple deep full of bees, and you're looking for the queen, and she likes to hide. You go through there a couple of times, you can't find her. Just split your hive anyway, okay? And then you can go back, and if you do nukes or whatever, you can go back and look for her. But if you still don't find her and you're not really sure, if you need to introduce this queen, a good idea would be to put this candy in up against this board here. I mean this sidebar, to where they can't get in there. Because they can move the box, but then what I like to do here is I'll just move this. I don't want to pop her. I'll move that against there, and then they can't move the cage. All right, if that makes sense, okay? But you need to find your queen. Now, I've had times when I've had a queenless roar. I had no larvae. I couldn't find a queen. I had no eggs. And I introduced a queen. This was a couple of years ago. That sucker, as soon as I let her out, a couple of bees were on her, and then they tried balling her. She was squealing. It sounds like piping. You can hear her. And I got her out of there fast. As a matter of fact, I think she's the queen that's in there. So it was a CF Conan. So anyway, so you just never know. So you really got to find your queens. And sometimes if they're getting ready to swarm, because in a few of my hives, I took down some really nice queen cells. You never know if you're going to have a virgin in there with the main queen or what. You don't know what's going to be. Anything can happen. So anyway, I know this hive is definitely queenless. So I'm going to let them release her. Excuse me. And smoke her. Now I'm going to move this brood frame over. All right. Flip that up. And I'm going to put her in the middle. And they'll release her in a day or two. I mean, that's what it'll take. They may even eat through the candy tonight. Okay. I'm going to flip this back. Squirrels, get out of my way. All right. Now, if you look at my nuke, all right, I can easily fit 5 frames in here. All right, now the thing about my nukes is that I make, I use Manlake dimensions. And the reason being is that Manlake nukes are made to have 4 frames and a gallon frame feeder. So if this hive were light, I could actually pull out a frame and put this in there. Now this frame feeder here, I forget how much it cost me, all right? Okay, this holds a gallon. You can see that, at least I think you can. You can see that it's from Manlake. And they make them to hold 1.5 gallons, and they make them to hold 2 gallons. I just wanted these because I like using hive top feeders, and I'll use these in my nukes. And I can still have 4 frames. Now, this is what you call a ladder. Okay, we'll move back so you can see that. And there are two ladders in this thing. Okay, now this ladder will sit. You see how low it goes there? Okay, it's almost to the bottom. So you can fill this up, and they shouldn't drown. I have very little drowning with these ladders. Now, if you have a queenless hive, you'll have some more drowning. For some reason, the bees are more frantic, and they go in there to hide. But I don't need to feed this hive, so we're good. I have some hives that are light, though. Now I'm going to go ahead and close this up. I hope I'm not forgetting to tell y'all anything. Oh, it feels so much nicer here in the shade. All right. Once I propolize this thing, it's not going anywhere. Like my little handles there. I'm probably going to move my handles down on the next one so I can add boxes. And I don't know what I'm going to do, but I like these. So I'll put that there. You want to know how hot it is out here in East Texas? Let me see if it'll do it. You'll see that sweat dripping? My glove is full of sweat. I don't know if y'all saw that. But anyway, I hope this helps y'all out. They'll release that queen and they'll start building. And we'll be good. So I'll talk to y'all later. Y'all have a good, I guess it's Memorial Day coming up. Or is it Labor Day? I think it's Memorial Day. So we'll talk to y'all later. Bye-bye.